Hello everyone, bringing you a video today looking at an S10 Respirator and its Haversack with the Haversack contents. I'm not exactly sure if this is exactly as it was left by whoever's it was when it went to surplus, but the contents are as it came to me and I've left them that way. Whenever I've had the contents out of it, I've repacked it as it was when I bought it. So I thought it would be interesting to have a look at what we've got here. It's Gulf War era. I think the Haversack's actually dated 91, but nevertheless, it has the contents you would expect to find from that period as far as I'm aware, including the facelet, which we'll have a look at when we come to it, looking at the contents of the video, an unusual little bit of kit that you see used in the Gulf. Okay, here we have the S10 Respirator and its Haversack. We're going to have a look at the contents first, and then we'll have a look at the Haversack in more detail once it's empty, look at the various compartments and so forth. So we'll open this up here, close this with both the press stud at the front, and then Velcro all around the sides there, and front edge. You can see the respirator sits in here very neatly. We'll remove this first, obviously exhale valve away from the body, and we'll have a look at the respirator. Now, as I say, as far as I'm aware, the contents of this Haversack are essentially as they were when it came onto the surplus market. You can see the design here. It's quite an advanced design for the time, quite very much an up-to-date modern design for the mid-1980s, obviously introduced in 1986. Now out of service, went out of service, I believe, beginning 2011. The Scott General Service Respirator taking over, of course. By the 1980s, the S6 was getting a bit long in the tooth, particularly in the fact it didn't have a drinking system, which obviously the US had introduced some years previously. And the S10 has a drinking system, as you can see here. There is a tube which wraps around the side of the exhale valve and sits in here when it's not in use. And then you have a little lever here, which I will show you what that does inside. This maneuvers the drinking tube inside the respirator to allow you to be able to drink. Obviously the canister on the left hand side here, it's a 40mm NATO thread. This is one of the plastic filters. You see these early on issued with the later type of S6 filter. So you can see there the inhale valve, the inhale port there, and one of the later plastic filters. I believe the red tape is added to show this is for training purposes. You can see the stamp on the side here. Bring that up there. 1988 Avon, typical style of stamp. And as I say, a very good design of respirator. Large eyepieces. You no longer have quite the same curved effect of the S6, which led to some issues. Nice large eyepieces. These could have optical inserts inserted into them to correct, basically to provide corrective lenses if you wore glasses. And you also have the ability, the S6 had to have an adapter clipped onto the front in order to take radio mics. The side piece here, the little auxiliary, I believe it's a little auxiliary voice diaphragm here. You can clip a Klansman radio mic directly onto this. You no longer need an adapter on the front. The rim here, designed to help the hood of the NBC suit to adhere to the mask and not slip back, providing a bit more of a seal there. And then you can see around the back here, the head harness is in fact made of rubber, which from a comfort point of view is not the best, and it seems a little odd from the argument generally presented for rubber head harnesses is anti-contamination. Obviously rubber, like the rest of the mask, can be easily decontaminated, but if you're going to be wearing an NBC hood over the mask and head harness, then this really seems to be an unnecessary element of the design. But that's what they went with. You can see there, top, helpful for when you're putting it on and when you're fitting the head harness there. You can see here the plastic clips and adjustment here, which work quite simply by, if we flip this up here, there we go. And then you can just pull the rubber straps through there, and then they clip and lock closed again. If we look inside, pull the harness up out of the way. There we go. You can see the nasal cup in here, and you can also see inside, if we get some light in there, you can see the drinking tube. Now if I operate that lever on the front again, you can see that brings the drinking tube round and into the correct position to drink from. So nice little feature there, and it just tucks neatly out of the way when not in use. Obviously you have essentially an inner mask between the air intake and everything else and the wearer's face, so the air is drawn up over the eyepieces and helps to keep them clear. And you can see the inside of the mask there. You can see the exhale valve in the front there, everything else. Very good. The face seal on these is excellent. It really is. It's a very well designed face piece. And it's a shame in a way, because there is an argument to say that the FM12, which is, you can almost see as a streamlined development of the S10, modernised a little bit and refined, of course used by British police forces, didn't go into service with the army. Arguably a better respirator than the Scott GSR, but there we are. So that's a look at the S10. We'll bring the Haversack back in now and we'll have a look at the rest of the contents. Okay, so we've had a look at the respirator itself. We'll take a quick look at the Haversack and its contents now, which will obviously, as I remove the contents, it'll allow you to see the design of the Haversack. We'll have a look at the externals of the Haversack first. On the front here you can see the stitching for the loops inside, which hold the atropine injectors, and also the front pocket there. But we'll have a look at the outside first, as I say. On the left hand side here you have or the right hand side as you look at the front, you have a little pocket which contains essentially a flat shoelace. This is the waist cord. This is a simplified method of doing this compared to previous respirator haversacks, in that you have the waist cord here, and then you just have a second little loop on the bottom edge here. This could be passed around the waist or around the back of the chest if it's worn on the chest, and you can then tie this off on the other side and it stops it flapping around. Looking at the back here, you have the shoulder strap. This can be unclipped here. It could also be worn around the waist on this strap, as well as was commonly done in the Gulf. But you have Fastex buckle there. This can be unclipped and tucked inside the respirator haversack if you're wearing it on the belt, using the belt loop here, which can be, obviously this can be looped over the belt and then fastened closed with these two lifted up fasteners. You then also have a C-hook here, which is compatible with the pockets on the PLC belt, which will stop this sliding around. So that's a feature of the PLC system, and this respirator haversack is obviously designed to be completely compatible with it. Looking down here at the bottom, we have a single loop in the centre, and this is another feature common with other PLC pouches. The 9058 pattern had often been modified, certainly in latter days, with a piece of cord through the bottom of the pouches, or stitched to the bottom of the pouches, to hold the bottom of the pouches close against the body so they didn't flap around. Obviously the belt holds them close up here, but they can still flop away from the belt and bounce, and this reduces that, having another point of tensioning down here. So the PLCE system, excuse me, introduces this as an element of the design. You can slot a strap or a cord through this to hold the equipment against the body lower down. Little panel here, which could be painted and details could be added on here. And then on this side here, we have the outer pocket for the DKP1, the decontamination kit, basically. And this contains pads, so in a plastic pack, and then it's a brown paper package inside that. This contains pads infused with Fuller's Earth, and the instructions, which you can see on the back here: blot, bang, rub. So you blot, bang to get the dust out, and then you can wipe away chemical contamination. That's the idea anyway. So that's the decontamination kit, and this is the little pocket for it. And the design of this, basically, the design of the respirator haversack is basically a modification of that, intended for the S6. Everything's carried pretty much where it was previously, which from a training point of view is helpful. The flap is sealed, as you've already seen, by Velcro and a press stud. Neat design of the press stud. You can put your finger underneath this little strap here and you can literally pinch it closed, which is good. Makes it easy to open and close when wearing gloves, of course. Now this is packed as it came to me. The first things we'll look at here, because we have the elastic loops in the lid still. This is a carryover from the S6 design as well, the S6 respirator haversack design. First thing we have here is a repair kit for the MBC suit, which you can see there. Sorry, I've got it upside down. There we go. Repair kit CB suit. It's exactly the same. It's designed. The reason it says CB suit, of course, is that's the original designation for the MBC suit, but this is the repair kit for the suit. We then have a facelet, which I mentioned at the start. This is an odd piece of kit designed for wearing minimal MBC threat environments. They were used in the Gulf, and I think they may have been used as dust masks as well. You certainly do see some footage and photographs of people wearing them. It's basically two pieces of cloth stitched together that then can be bowed out into sort of a duckbill shape, and they're impregnated. It's impregnated with activated charcoal, and it will actually filter the air to a degree while not restricting breathing nearly as much as the respirator. And there's a little head harness in here, it buttons on with these press studs. We'll have a look at one of these unwrapped at some point in the future. I do have another one, but as I say, that'll be a subject for another video. I'll probably do a separate little video on that. And then underneath here we have a little instruction card. Action in the event of attack by chemical agents and care of the respirator. So quite a nice little reference document there. And these, as I say, this is how it came, tucked in the flap of the haversack. See the stamp in there, this up a bit, RR91 you can see there, haversack respirator S10 and the NATO stock code. Then the rest of the contents in here, you have the MBC inner and outer gloves, so the inner gloves, basically white cotton gloves, and then the black rubber outer gloves, 1984, size 9.5, you can see there. And then in the main compartment we have the spare canister, and this is wrapped in foil still, as you can see, and you can see there, sealed 21st of the 3rd 1988, so 21st of March 1988, but was actually impregnated in 1986, November 1986. So that's when the actual filter agent within the filter, the actual chemical filtering agent within the filter, was impregnated, and still wrapped in its foil wrapper there, as you can see. Now, previously, if you'd had a left or right-handed respirator, you needed a left or right-handed haversack to go with it. The S10 haversack does away with this and has another canister loop on this side, which means that when we can get some light in there, you can see there's another strap and loop in this side that can be folded away. We bring that up to the camera. There we go. We can see now. So that you don't need separate haversacks for left or right-handed canister respirators. You can just fold one of them away, whichever one would be in the way of the forehead of the facepiece, depending on which side the canister is on the respirator. Little easy as logistics there. You don't have to have two different types of respirator haversack. And then in the front here we have a little pocket, and this contains, first of all, the DKP2, the bottle of Fuller's Earth, basically, which is obviously what the pads in the DKP1 are impregnated with, and this just allows you to absorb more chemical agent. So a bottle of that there. Two different types of chemical detector paper came with this. So we have chemical agent number 1 Mark II, detector paper chemical agent number 1 Mark II liquid 3 colour, and then paper number 2 Mark 1 liquid 1 colour. So 2 books of detector paper there. And then one item I have added to this is a training device in place of the actual atropine auto injectors. There would, of course, there's provision for 3 of these. I only have one training device in here. I have several, but they're in different haversacks with the S6s. So this is the right type for this era, late 80s, early 90s. So just a training device. As I say, it does function. I have the reset tool somewhere. Pull the cap off and then activate it. I'm not going to, because I don't have the reset tool with me right now. But there it is. So that's the training device in there. And as you can see, there's just the pockets in the front here for the DKP2 and the loops across the front there for the auto injectors. And everything, of course, secured by Velcro. So that is the haversack and its contents. So here in summary, we have the contents laid out. You can see the MBC gloves here, inner and outer. We have the atropine injector. There would normally be 3 of these, of course, and the 3 loops within the haversack. Repair kit for the MBC suit, facelet, and the little instruction card, the little care card, and events in action, action in the event of attack by chemical agents. We then have the 2 different types of detector paper, the 2 different DKPs, the S10 respirator, and the spare canister. So that's an overview of the contents. So there we are. That was a quick look at the S10 respirator and the haversack contents which are associated with it. I do hope you found that interesting, as I always say. If you'd like to see more of this sort of thing, more of this sort of content, British and Commonwealth militaria and so forth, then please do consider subscribing if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've already subscribed, do make sure that you've clicked the little notification button, the little bell down below. That does alert you when I upload future videos, of course. There's also links to the Facebook and Instagram page in the description of the video. I recommend checking those out. I post up photographs of the collection, reenacting events and so forth on there as well. So a good place to keep up with what's going on, and also a good place to contact me. The Facebook page is probably the best place to message me if you wish to, other than leaving comments on the videos, of course. But that's everything I wanted to cover in the video. So until next time, bye for now.